Alright, in this video we're doing a quick review of angles. So starting with how to name angles. When we name angles, we use the letters that are around. So for example, if we're looking at this angle right here, we can name it a few different ways. First way is just using this notation. It's like a little half triangle, and writing B, capital B, so that represents the angle that is at the point capital B, or we can write it as the angle that is formed between this point, and this point, so the angle ABC, or we can write this as going from C, B, and A, so we can write it like this. So all these three ways to write this one angle. And this next one covers sort of two ideas in one. So one idea is that in a triangle, all three of these angles add up to 180 degrees. And another idea of angles on a straight line is always 180 degrees. Now, looking at this diagram on the right hand side, you can see we have a little triangle here that has this angle X, this angle Y, and this missing angle here as well. Now, let's just call this angle A. Then we know that when we add X, Y, and A all together, they need to add up to 180. So that's one way to find this angle. However, there is another way of finding this angle A, which is to use this idea of angles on a straight line. You can see carefully that the angle Z here and this angle A together, they are on a straight line. That means they need to add up to 180 as well. So there's two different ways of finding this angle or this angle using this idea. However, if you put this together, we can come up with a little shortcut, because this one have to add up to 180, as well as this one and this one having to add up to 180. These guys, the X and Y, is always going to be same as Z because of what I just explained. So that's a little shortcut to find what this angle is just these two angles added up together. Alright, here's a whole bunch more of little names and ideas of different angles. First one is complementary angles. We call two angles or many angles that add up to 90 degrees complementary. And we called angles that add up to 180, so lie on a straight line, supplementary angles. And then we call angles that are opposite of each other, like this, or it could be like these two. We call them vertically opposite, and they're always going to be equal in size. We have corresponding angles. That's when we have parallel lines. So these two are parallel lines, and the way we know is thanks to this notation here. These little arrows indicate that these two are parallel to each other. So when we have a pair of parallel lines and a line that goes through it, there's a whole bunch of angles that form around it. There's 8, as you can see here. And all of these angles have different relationships, starting with corresponding, which just means that this angle here is on the same location as this angle here, as you can see. We call these corresponding angles, and they're equal in size as well. There's a whole bunch of corresponding angles. These two are also corresponding angles. So are these two. So they're all the same in size. And then we have alternate angles, which are, again, we're dealing with parallel lines. And if we have angles that are alternate of each other, so a quick way to determine this is to do a little Z. And these two angles will be equal in size as well. There's many alternate angles, not just these two. we can do a little z this way, and then we can see that this one and this one are also alternate angles, and they're going to be the same in size as well. And lastly, we have co-interior angles. They are when we draw a little C, and whatever angles that lies within it, so like these two, they're always going to add up to 180. So we can draw a sort of C this way, and these two angles will also add up to 180. Alright, let's quickly put this into practice. This question asks to determine the values of the pronumerals. Pronumerals are the letters that are used in the diagram. So we want to find out what A and B are. So this little square thing gives away that this is 90 degrees, and it's made up of this 30 degrees and this angle A. So then we know A is going to be 60 degrees. Well, 90 minus 30, which is going to be 60 degrees. So A and 30 together make up 90, and the rest of this is angle B. Now, as you can see, B plus the 90 degrees go around a full circle. When it goes around the full circle, it's 360 degrees. So we know that, well, it's 360 without that 90 degrees that's missing. So this is going to be 270 degrees for B. Alright, this next one, again, we're looking for the values of the pronumerals in the diagram. We have a 90 degree here, and we have a straight line here. Then we know that this needs to be 90 degrees as well, because angles in a straight line, when we add them all up, it adds up to 180. So it's sort of like a halfway, 90 here, 90 here. Meaning that, well, if this is 40, A has to be 50, so they add up to 90. And then B is just on the other side of the straight line. So then it is going to be 180 degrees because it's on a straight line. Now this one is to do with vertically opposite angles. So these two are vertically opposite to each other. So B is going to be 55 degrees. So same as the other side. But then also the 55 and A, they lie on a straight line. So they have to add up to 180. So if you take away the 55 from 180, that's going to give you what A is equal to, and that's going to be 125 degrees. This next example, we're looking at two parallel lines here, so there's going to be a whole bunch of relationships between these angles. But first of all, B and this 120 are vertically opposite angles, they're sort of facing each other. So we already know that B has to be 120 degrees. And we know then you'll need to sort of turn on the visual side of your brain. You can see there's a little, you can make a little C there. And these two lie within it, so they have to add up to 180. So we already know that B is 120. So C then has to be 60 degrees, so they add up to 180. Well, if C is 60, well, C and A together lie on a straight line. Then A is going to be 180, take away 60, so it's 120 degrees.